Well, good evening and welcome. I'm Frank Jewett with Tom Buchholz, who's a business and executive coach, and this is the award-winning Issues Today Community Television Forum. We'd like to first start off by thanking you, the viewers, who tune in each and every week to make this show the success that it is. We'd certainly like to thank our many sponsors, and we provide them with special thanks for their support in helping to deliver this show, and by which provide the mechanism to build better community. And we certainly like to thank the many guests that have brought some very creative and incisive ideas on how we build better community. And with that, on with the show. Tom, another great and exciting week ahead.
Very much looking forward to this. We are going to welcome back for his fourth appearance on the show, Greg Conlon, who is
He's becoming a regular now.
a CPA, a businessman, former president of the California Public Utilities Commission, and now candidate for Congress in the 12th District of California. Greg, welcome back.
Thank you very much.
Greg, good to see you. Thanks for coming this evening.
Good to see you. I guess the only thing I'd add is I'm an Irishman with chutzpah.
Okay.
That was the title I got yesterday
that.
when I went to a St. Patrick's Day dinner. So that was a good line for me.
Congratulations. It fits and it sounds good at the same time. Let's start. You obviously have had continuing involvement in energy and environment for many years on the Public Utilities Commission and beyond. What's important for people to know from that time and going forward?
Well, I think going back into the 90s and working your way forward, that conservation and renewable energy has been the goal of the California Public Utility Commission. It's been the goal of the governor in his recent legislation on in the environment. And I just think both the oil independence, because right now we're using more than 50% of our oil is coming from outside the United States. And I think that dependence on that foreign oil is really hurting our economy. I mean, just recently, the price of oil has gone over $110 a barrel, which is a record ever. And I'm concerned that it might even get worse unless we really take some dramatic steps to overcome the dependence on that oil.
Now, I seem to recall that while you served on the commission, that you led pioneering steps in California into alternative energy.
Well, while I was on the commission, we were able to do several things that back in the 90s that really set the tone, if you will. We put a surcharge on the utility bills to collect over $1 billion for conservation for the utilities to do with the consumers, and that worked very well in reducing the demand. We had a renewable program where we were it was very expensive. I must say that. It was very expensive, but we were able to get 11% of California's production now. It was at renewables or alternative fuels. So there was no emission of fossil fuels as a result of that. So it was very expensive. I remember one of my old lines was it cost 25 cents a day for every man, woman, and child in California for 10 years.
But I understand that positioned us as a state as a leader or the leader.
The leader. I mean, we had 11%. And I'm sure it's closer to 15% today, compared to other states. Back when I left the commission, it was under 3% for any of the other states. So we were the leader, and we set the trend, and we paid for it, but it's paid off. So now we can be proud of what we've done, and it's really helping the environment in California.
And as you see the momentum continue, the governor endorsing new initiatives and so forth, what do you see that our viewers should be knowledgeable about going forward?
Well, I think if able to get elected in Congress, that I would look at a national cap and trade program, and that's a statement for setting the level of emissions that we feel are proper, whether it's 1990, 80% of 1990, or whether it's 80% of some date. But whatever it is, we would set that as a cap, and then we would create a credits program that would be traded on the market that would allow people to build new power plants that were more efficient, emitted less energy, and they would build credits up, and then other people who weren't able to reduce their pollution because their old plants or would be able to buy those credits and counterbalance and meet the new goals of the cap system. So it's a complicated affair, but I would advocate that as a congressman to have a nationwide trade and cap program.
So the people who are doing well get rewarded, or the companies that are doing well get rewarded monetarily for doing it, and the other folks who are not have an incentive over time to do better so they don't have to pay.
Right, and it's a worldwide problem. It's not a California problem. So these initiatives could be done in China. I know there's one company that's spent over $1 billion in China doing new power plants that were very efficient. And you could plant trees in Brazil. So any of those things I would make sure that you could document and certify that they were actually done to get those credits. But that's the type of programs that you would have to build credits, and then you could sell those on the market to compensate you for building those plants.
Let's move on to another issue here. I understand also from your background that you've had some good personal impact in terms of schools, and of course at the moment we have a question about homeschooling and parent certification in California. Why don't you tell us a little bit about all of that?
Well, I started getting involved in public education back in the early 90s with the Alameda Unified School District, which is an island in the Bay, so we all know, right off Oakland. And I worked with them for a year and a half part-time in developing a vision for the 21st century for their schools. And they have 22 schools and 5,000 students. And we worked with them, and I think that program has been beneficial to them, and I think that they would attest that it had a dramatic impact on their teaching. But beyond that, we, as a representative of my accounting firm, were able to invest over $1.5 million in a new, really a one-room schoolhouse concept for 150 students in Alameda. It was called the Alameda Learning Center. And that school now has blossomed over the last 11 years and was rated by the U.S. News and World Report to have a top 8% of the schools in the United States. So I'm working with them. I testified this week with the school board for the county trying to get replicated in other schools. So I think that this new concept of using 21st century skills in a school needs to be replicated as many times as we can, and that's what I've been working on most recently.
I understand you're also discussing quite openly what those 21st century needs are, and maybe our viewers would be interested in either that or a little bit more about what's unique and valuable about the school you've established.
Well, in a one-room schoolhouse concept, the students are really, it's almost like going to college when they're still in high school. I mean, they're not monitored in a physical classroom all the time. They have the ability to develop their critical thinking skills and to do thematic approaches to learning. And it's really been some of the students have been able to go to Harvard right out of there, so they've had great success. But it gives more responsibility for the student, puts more pressure on them, but it gives them an incentive to learn. And it's really worked. And I think that's the proof of the pudding, if you will.
And do they spend more time teaching each other?
They do. Because they're all in one big room, the older students teach the younger students, and I think the younger students are inspired by the help that they get from the older students. So it's quite a phenomenon, and they're trying to. They've got a waiting list now of over 250 students to get in, and they're just trying to get approval from the school boards to do it. So I'm really excited about it, and I testified this week before the school board, encouraging them, because otherwise, if they don't allow it, if they don't replicate it, why would business keep investing in schools if they're not going to, when they're successful, not approve a replication of it? So that's kind of where it is.